Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us for today's webinar. My name is Dan Nagley. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs and the Executive Director of the UNT Career Center. We are here to share industry and hiring insights in a variety of fields that UNT alumni are actively pursuing after graduation. We have a variety of guest panelists today that I think you're going to enjoy hearing from. Here is our agenda for the day. First up, a message. We're going to share a message from our president, Neil Smatras. Then we'll move into the question and answer period from our audience for the panelists. And finally, we will share more about the Get Hired Grads initiative and all of its resources. As part of your registration today, we will send you all the relevant links after the event, including a link to the webinar recording when available. We hope to have these events listed on the gethired.unt.edu website by the first week in April, so next week. So let's get started next with a message from President Smatras.
Hello, I'm Neil Smatras, the president of the University of North Texas. Congratulations, your college journey is nearing the end, and it's almost time to launch your professional career. You may be feeling a mix of emotions about what comes next: stress, relief, nervousness, and excitement, and that's perfectly okay. Your UNT family is here to help you through the Get Hired Grad program. During the weeks leading up to graduation, UNT's Get Hired initiative is offering extra support to help you boost your resume and prepare for your job search. You can develop supplemental skills, have your resume reviewed by our alumni network, get insider tips from industry professionals, and even receive one-on-one help with the job search. These are just a few of the examples of what's available through the Get Hired initiative. We've outlined the 7 steps to career success and have numerous resources posted online to help you best market yourself to prospective employers. Visit gethired.unt.edu to learn about the many ways UNT can help you dazzle employers and land the perfect role.
Thank you for that message, Dr. Smatras. Now we're going to launch another poll question for you, and we want to know what sentence best describes your job search at this moment. So if you can take a moment to answer that, select one of those answers. All right, so most people have started searching for jobs, which is good to hear. But no matter what stage you are in your job search process, we're hoping to provide you with some career information by asking questions of our panelists for today's event. Now for the reason you all joined us today, our panelists. On the panel today from UNT, we have Jennifer Barnes. Jennifer is professor of vocal jazz and director of the Jazz Singers with the College of Music. Kirsten Broberg, associate professor of composition and director of undergraduate studies with the College of Music. Miriam Reynolds, who's a counselor in counseling and testing here at UNT and a liaison to the art and music programs. Marcy Bishop is a career coach with the Career Center, and she's focused on the College of Visual Art and Design, as well as the College of Music. And then Aaron Anderson is an internship specialist with the Career Center, and he's also focused on the College of Visual Art and Design and the College of Music. And our employer partners that are joining us today, we'll start out with Tim Cato, Programming Manager, Human Resources with KFDA Channel 10 in Amarillo. Will Maddox, Managing Editor with D Magazine. Mindy Arendt, Art Director with Ernest Health. Taylor Vogel, Director of Education and Community Programs with the Fort Worth Symphony Orchestra. Nicole Robles, Director of Human Resources with KDFW Fox 4. And then Anna Michaela Reyes, an Insight Designer with Velociteach. So those are your panelists. And now I'm going to introduce Dr. Hope Garcia. Hope is going to lead the question and answer period. So Hope, the panel is all yours.
All right, we'll let the fun begin with these wonderful panelists. So let's get started. Hopefully this is something that can be open for any one of the panelists. So really right now, I'll just call it April, even though April is happening tomorrow. We're at the end of the spring semester, and we are specifically talking to seniors. So even though we can say, oh, prep in advance is a thing, right now we're in the boat of right now. So what panelists do you have as advice for seniors who are graduating this May in terms of trying to start that job search any sort of advice for students looking for their first full-time job as soon to be graduates? Nicole, we'll start with you and then Taylor.
Well, hi everyone. I'm Nicole Robidas, and I was KDFW Fox 4. My advice is that you always make sure that you highlight that experience that you have for those that have not had full-time roles. Make sure that you highlight the experience that you received in college, because the projects you work on, the community activities you've had a hand in, the different organizations you're part of, all those you potentially had or exhibited skills that you did in those in participating in those organizations. And so I think that it's very important that you don't undersell yourself, but definitely highlight those types of things. Those people that do have jobs, I don't care if it's even in the restaurant industry and that's not where you want to be. For me, I've talked to a plethora of students at different universities, and I let them know that I don't care if you worked at McDonald's. To me, you're showing me that you know how to be part of a team. Whether you were the fry person or a burger flipper or the cashier, you're part of a team. And so that shows me that you have that type of experience. And so, believe it or not, you actually have a head in over someone that maybe doesn't have that kind of experience. So don't undersell yourself. Definitely highlight the things that you have experience and the things that you have done, whether it's at a job or in college with a project you're working on or an organization that you participated in.
Great. So we'll go over to Taylor and then Marcy and then Tim.
Hi, I'm Taylor Vogel. I'm the Director of Education with the Fort Worth Symphony. And my biggest piece of advice is to balance doing your research with asking questions. If you can find something that you're even remotely interested in. I actually started out as a classroom educator and went into orchestral administration later because whenever I found out that the role existed, I started asking questions. And it was just a really, really good fit for me. And it's been a field that I've been able to grow within. So I would really say that, of course, you need to do your research on the front end, know the mission of the organization if you're looking at applying somewhere, or if you are, of course, approaching an interview, but also go in asking questions, not just about what your day-to-day roles will be like, but ask questions about the people in the organization and really try to connect to see if it's going to be a culture that you can grow within.
And panelists, if you know that you're next, you can just unmute yourself and hop in. So Marcy and then Tim.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marcy Bishop Lilly. I'm the career coach for CVAD and the College of Music. And I would just say, be proactive, get all of your professional documents together, get your resume together, start putting together your cover letter, as well as thinking about what you would like to put in your portfolio for submissions as well.
Okay, am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
You're doing good.
Okay. I'm gonna take the standpoint of more the social or emotional view of the applicant. If you are, and I've seen this happen so many times. And by the way, I'm the programming manager and the HR coordinator here at KFDA in Amarillo, and I've been here almost 33 years. So I've hired a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people come in and out this door, and I was just going to say, if you if you have a sense of adventure and you're okay with going somewhere and not knowing anybody and want to start over halfway across the country, go for it. That's perfect. But if you're not and you do that, boy, it can kill you. If you're very close to your family, if you have, say, like a grandmother or grandfather, may not be around in a couple of years, don't go halfway across the country, because that can really weigh on you and that can affect you on your job. Stay close to your region. And it's, you may not think that's important, but it really is. Stay close enough in your region. Say, like here in Amarillo, down to DFW, it's a 5-hour drive. You can get home right away. If you go up to Washington State, it's a little hard to get home, especially if it takes you a year to get a week's worth of vacation.
Thanks for that. So we're gonna hop over to some skills. So off the top of your head, what are the top 3 skills that you'd really like to see students have in their back pocket when entering your industry? So the second part of that is, let's say they have those 3 skills that you think are the top on your list. How do they demonstrate that on their resume or their cover letter or their interview? So how do they get them? What are they? And how do they insert those smartly into the documents and the items that you're reviewing about them? And Nicole, do you want to start this again? Okay.
Okay, well, the top 3 that I can think of are definitely communication, teamwork, and then the third one is, I guess, your strength within the area that whatever that may be. So I'll just take a reporter. So with the reporter, your screen presence. So if you have you're highlighting your top 3 skills, I think that it's important you in each area. First of all, I am a big non-proponent of the functional resume. I know professors everywhere don't like me because of that, but I do not recommend the functional resume. Those go to the bottom of the stack in my office, and in my colleagues that I'm close to in HR, they say the same thing. So sorry, professors, if there are any on the call, but definitely highlight those skills and everything that makes sense under each job, one job, any project that you have listed on your resume. If you worked on a project with 5 people in a class, I think you should highlight that part of your team orientation, part of your team skill set. Communication is key. How did you communicate in that group? What was your role in that group? What did you do to make sure that it was a cohesive group as it relates to communication? Some things I think, Dr. Garcia, may be more verbal if you get that interview where you can also communicate in more detail. But I think that if you can interweave your top 3 skills that I've listed into your resume strategically without overkill, I think that would be best.
Can you bring up a good vocabulary term for us for the students here? So functional resume is where you might chunk, here's my communication skills and where I use them. Here's my teamwork and where I use them, versus you'd like to see something like a chronological resume where here's where I worked at a fast food chain and here's what I did. Here's
Yeah,
where I worked at an event center and here's what I did.
right. The chronological and the combination resumes for me are better because I can see that, oh, this person has 2 years of reporting in a medium to large market versus them just listing it out and finding out in an interview they only have 6 months. So that's it. If those that have the time to take the time, I should say, to actually list that out, actually go to the top of the review list. So just being honest, it makes it much easier as recruiters are going through resumes. So yeah.
So we'll hop over to Taylor and then Mindy and then Jennifer.
So I would say that one of the first things I actually look for is persistence. In music, a lot of times you have to follow up with people, like a lot of people, and you have to find information for who you're talking to. As Tim mentioned, you might be moving to a different location where you don't know anybody, and you have to be able to find those people, and that takes a lot of persistence. So I'm always looking for students who will reach out to me and be engaged, of course, within boundaries. If the application says, please don't call, do not call. But if it's totally appropriate to send that thank you note is a sign of persistence after an interview. That thank you note after a phone call is a sign of persistence. And I want that because I want somebody who will show up, be proactive, and do the job. I also am always looking for someone who knows how to have navigated a failure. You will fail at some point in your career, hopefully on a smaller scale and hopefully earlier on. But I definitely want to hear an example of how you have navigated a failure in the past. So just kind of have that in your back pocket going into that. And be able to rebound with how you grew from that experience. And then I just want to harp on communication again. If your thing is not grammar or correct spelling, you need to have somebody in your life who that is their thing and they can proof it for you. That is just a number one check no for so many employers. So it's really critical to have those basic skills, but also to be able to take a moment and breathe and ask the question, thinking through what you're going to be saying and being able to be brief with your response. Those are all really critical communication skills.
Taylor, before I hand it over to Mindy, students are going to ask me this. So the thank you note that's in a written form, like I folded up this cool piece of paper and sent it to your office, or an email form, does it matter? Or do they just
It does matter the time that you have within the interview. So perhaps they're looking to turn around the hire within 2 days. You don't have time for the thank you note immediately to be handwritten and then sent to the office. Send an email and then send the handwritten, but make sure that email one gets there too, and then send one to the office. A handwritten note always makes a difference. So always do it. Get yourself some good stationery. It makes a difference.
So the answer was a yes and. Keep
Yes,
that note, students. It's mostly the answers are always yes and. Thanks. Mindy, over to you.
Hi, I'm Mindy Arndt. I'm art director with Ernest Health and Vibra Healthcare. While it's not as exciting as some of the other fields that are represented here, I think one of the most important things when trying to get hired is yes, getting the interview, but once you get that interview, showing your personality and showing your trainability and your workability. Nobody's going to hire an expert on something if you can't work with the rest of your team. So I think that, to me, that's one of the most important aspects of the interview, is making sure that you show that personality and that you're trainable and can work with others.
Great. And then we're going to Jennifer and then Kirsten.
I won't do 3, but I'll just throw in, because they've touched on things already. I wanted to add, again, I'm director of vocal jazz here. I do a little bit of hiring in a sense, in that I have an adjunct faculty member who teaches our students, and I also make decisions about graduate teaching fellows who might come back and do, another degree, and they're going to be teaching our students. So that's a form of hiring as well. So I'm thinking of some things that I look for. In addition to the things that have been mentioned, I think one thing is when you're finishing school, you may feel like, I can't wait to get out of the learning mode. But I think being an employee is very much about being a learner. And so that's something I like to hear about. What's something recent that you've learned that excited you? Something new that you've just started? And it doesn't have to relate even necessarily to what you're going to be doing, but that's part of showing your personality, I think, and your posture of, oh, maybe if someone else knows about this, I might not know, but I'd be eager to do that. And if you can point to specifically something you have learned recently, I try to model that for my students, and we all had to learn a lot during COVID, and pivot, but it can be hard to do that, but it's a really important part, I think, of being an employee, is a willingness to learn and a passion and excitement about learning new things. So not just thinking of what you learned in school, and I can't wait to stop learning. Nope, you're going to keep learning a lot. So I wanted to offer that as well.
Kirsten, you can jump in.
I agree with Jennifer about that learnability quality is very important. I wanted to piggyback on Taylor's comment about the thank you note. And so when you go to send an email, if you don't have that time for the handwritten note right away, make sure to send it to each member of the committee that interviews you personally. Don't send a group email to everybody. So take the time to send an email to each individual person.
Great.
You're muted, Dr. Hope Garcia.
Wow. What would I do without you, Kirsten? Thanks. Since we had a question from the students that are in the room about skill sets, I wanted to go ahead and insert that question. And I think I know the answer, but I'm going to let our panelists, a couple of you maybe jump in, and I'm just going to read it how it was sent in, but it has to do with skill sets. So I think it's a good time to address it. Are there any careers available that cater to interdisciplinary arts? So something like videography, photography, fashion design, costume design. I've looked at an art director position or career And I don't know if this would allow me to use multiple skill sets I possess. I'm pretty excited to hear maybe 2 answers before we can jump on to the next section. But what do we think about interdisciplinary skills being used in one position? Nicole and then Mindy.
As we don't here specifically at my station have anything like that. However, throughout Fox Television Group, as well as Fox Corporation, which includes entertainment and news, all of them, there are different positions and opportunities that do allow the interdisciplinary skill set. Maybe not so much on our side with the fashion piece of it, but definitely with art. We have creative services, and they do a lot of different things, videography. They also do scripting. They do a lot, just promos, just a lot of different things that will utilize multiple types of skill set. So that's what is specific to the television group, but throughout all of Fox Corporation, we have those types of things. Now, I'm sure at entertainment, there's even more on the Fox Entertainment side, but yeah.
Great. And then Mindy, what can we add to this?
I'm not particularly, I don't know exactly what some of the careers are called, but I know as an art director, like being able to hop in and edit videos and do graphic design and be a photographer and do that helps. You know what I mean? Like that has helped me to get to where I am through my career. And I've seen other people do as well. Like having those skill sets, first of all, I think puts you higher on a list for hiring of somebody who can do graphic design and edit photos and do all of that. Having that kind of skill set is going to help you. So having that ADHD brain, like I do, which most artists do, I think helps, as long as you can make sure that you can, execute a project, do all of these things well. And so I'm not sure exactly what a career path is, but I know that those skill sets are out there for you, and having those is good.
And then Taylor and Miriam, do you want to quickly add to this, and perhaps Tim too, before we move on to the next?
Sure. I just wanted to say, if you're looking at that art director position and you think it might be a viable option, apply. Just apply for it. Apply for the positions that look like they might be a good option, because if it doesn't work out, you'll figure that out once that opportunity is closed. Give yourself as many opportunities as you possibly can, and let that be the thing that guides you. Not it doesn't check every single box. You might get to an interview and find out it's a really good fit, whereas you might also apply for a job that you think is going to be perfect, and you get to that interview and it is not a good fit. So I would be wary of limiting your options based on what the specific title is, because the role will change and the culture will change within each different position.
And over to Miriam.
I was going to just agree with what Mindy said, that the skills are going to be helpful in general to have all of the skills. And the jobs that I'm aware of that are happening right now that are very interdisciplinary and lots of different creative things happening at the same time are in social media. So I have a friend who is responsible for social media for a different university, and she is using all of those skills. She is doing videography, graphic design, music, editing. I mean, everything that you mentioned, she is doing a bit of that in her job at a university responsible for the social media. And so those jobs do exist out there. They're just maybe not what you think they would be, and maybe not, like Taylor said, maybe not called what you think they're going to be called. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Great. And then Tim.
Yeah, we have, like Nicole mentioned, at our TV station, we've got a creative services department, very, very talented creative services department with 5 editors. So we've got somebody in the production department, got their foot in the door, waiting to get a creative services. We also had somebody in our production department just recently became our newest weekend sports anchor. Only after 8 months. So yes, just do whatever you can to get your foot in the door. It's a little bit different department. Be patient, and you'll get to another department.
Super. So I'm grateful that the panelists read my mind and basically said, in a nutshell, interdisciplinary skills are where it's at, right? Your supervisor or your team might go, today I need somebody to do this. And you're not the person that's going, oh, I don't do that. Today you do. And tomorrow you might. And next week you might. And those are the things that make you a really great candidate. So when someone sees, oh, and they've also worked with children at a summer camp. Oh, and they've also worked at a fast food. So it's been hot and sweaty and fast paced and productive, right? That's what Nicole was adding about show me your skill sets and how can I use them here. And I'm pretty sure none of these employers want to interpret why you're good for that role. They want you to tell them why you're good for that role. Because I worked in fast food, because I worked with kids, because I like fashion design, therefore I'll be a great music director, right? Make it apply. Show them how you're the great candidate. So panelists, some of you I haven't heard from, so I'm going to be looking for your hand. We're moving into what are those pitfalls? So we're going to try to get out this great advice, like the best friend advice that tells you, you know, you got a wardrobe faux pas or a lettuce in your teeth situation. You are now morphing into I am that friend that tells you before you make the mistake, right? So I've made plenty of silly mistakes in job searches before. We all have. So students, you're going to make some mistakes and it's okay. But this panel is here to warn you about those little pitfalls. So panelists, be thinking about what's a pitfall, and it might be a tiny technical problem. You missed a period on a resume, or it might be, wow, I didn't expect for that answer to go that direction in an interview. So what are some examples of things that you have seen that just, you're going to the no pile? And so how can we share some of those ideas with our students before they make them? Erin, we'll start with you.
So one of the big things that I've seen in different capacities where I've reviewed resumes and been on search committees is clearly evident when a student uses a resume that wasn't written for that specific job posting, either a resume or a cover letter. So it's obvious that they're not putting the time or the energy into it to make sure that that resume matches and correlates directly to that job description. And the same with cover letters. You can't just use one for every job that you apply for. You have to really put some time and energy thinking into it about how you really fit in that organization. And I always tell students that I meet with that it should be like a symbiotic relationship where you should be telling that organization what you have to offer them and what you can bring to that organization, and also what you think you'll get out of being there, what you'll get out of the experience, how you're planning on growing, and how that can be really mutually beneficial for both of you. So putting that time and energy to make sure those things are correct. And then, I know somebody mentioned it earlier, but the attention to detail, like don't use the wrong person's name in a cover letter, or even the most informal of communications. Make sure that you're polite and that you have a greeting, and that you sign off, and that, you wish people a good day and are just pleasant and fun to interact with. If you have an email that comes in and you're asking about a job and it just says, I can't find the link to that, like you're below the bottom of the pile at that point. People want to be, addressed and communicated with in a nice, friendly, polite way, and make sure that everything is tailored to exactly what you're applying for and where you want to be.
Thanks so much, Erin. All right, so we're going to go over to Will, Anna, and Taylor. Tell us your pitfalls.
Hello, Will Maddox, managing editor at D Magazine Partners. Yeah, I'll echo what Erin, that was actually going to be my idea or my thought was, resumes or letters that are not tailored to the job. It's like someone just is playing a numbers game and just throwing out many as they can. So yeah, trying to tailor that. But a couple other ones would be, maybe this might be more specific for editors and writers that I'm looking for, but like my eyes just really glaze over when I read like the same letter over and over again. So trying to be unique in some way or take a different approach than, whatever template you Googled right before you wrote this line, and make yourself stand out there is helpful, because a lot of these jobs, especially if it's a desirable one, there's a large stack, and so people have limited time to read through stuff. So, while everything else we're saying is good, try to make yourself stand out. Last piece, and I've been really surprised by this, people that just don't respond like to whatever, like I want to interview you or I have another question. Several, I've probably had I don't know, 5 or 6 and 2 years on the job, just potential candidates for an internship or a job or whatever, you reach out and there's just no response. And I assume that person has another setup somewhere, but I just think, you want to keep all avenues of communication. Don't burn any bridges and leave me hanging, or leave whoever hanging. So even if you have something else lined up, like respond and try and, continue that relationship.
Anna and then Taylor.
Hey, I'm Anna. I'm a graphic designer at Velociteach. My advice would be specific to if your employer is asking for a list of references. It's always courteous, at least this is what I do if I'm applying to a job, to contact the people who I'm going to list as a reference and say, give them a heads up and say, hey, I would like to apply this job. I want to see if you can put in a good word for me and write you down as a reference if you are contacted, because you don't want someone to write you as a reference, but they don't tell you, and you just get a random call during the day, or you aren't able to take the call and aren't able to support that person. I just think it's a courteous thing to do. Just don't forget. That's it.
As far as resumes go and applications, I think it's a big pitfall to not be specific. You can say that you've worked with children, and that's great, but there is having nannied for one child. That's a completely different skill set than working with 140 children at once and leading that. So being really specific with whatever numbers you can provide is incredible. And then, like Dr. Garcia was saying earlier, building those connections for the potential employer in your resume. Do that directly, and that'll put you a cut above. So be as specific as you possibly can. And then my big interview pitfall is not having questions. You can come with a notepad with questions prepared. You can absolutely bring notes to your interview. That is absolutely okay. I would rather see somebody who is prepared in that capacity and actually has 10 questions ready to go than hear somebody say, no, I don't have any questions, thank you, and just leave.
Dan actually put this in the chat, and I think it's a good piece to add in right now, especially for this group of students who probably have portfolios or been working on them in some capacity. Do you like to see portfolios sort of embedded somehow in a resume with a link, or is there any sort of platform that you like to see portfolios in a certain software website? So then we're talking about e-portfolios. Maybe they're not bringing their whole bag of cool drawings, but how do they showcase what they've done? Nicole, we'll start with you.
For instance, in positions here at the station for writers or our producers, it is common for them to send a link, and we can go that direction. If they actually come in, then we are fine with them bringing, the actual hard copies of what they've done. But links are fine. It's it's probably best to highlight that type of those types of experiences in your resume, as well as on in the application process where that allows, because then we can go out and look at your link and have that part done ahead of time.
So for that link, it doesn't totally matter what platform they choose to put it on, so long as the link isn't broken and I can see what you've worked on. Right?
Yeah, in our business, we have all types of different types of platforms people use, and so we have access to different kinds. I haven't run across a situation where that the type of platform someone's using is inhibitive, if that's a word. But anyway, so yeah, I think as long as they add the link, that's fine. We can get to it. If we can't, we'll ask. But definitely, I think in the front end, using a link, if possible, is good, because again, as we go through resumes, as we go through applications, we're able to go look into what you've done that way. And then if we want any hard copies, or you want to present something if you're scheduled for an interview, I think that's fine too.
Great. So we'll go Anna, Mindy, then Tim.
I actually you could use a website as your portfolio. If you can run your own website and put all your work up there, or your best work up there. There's also different like third-party websites like ArtStation or Dribbble that you could use to put your work up on. That's pretty popular for ArtStation's popular for like illustrators, and then Dribbble is pretty popular for like UI or UX design or graphic designers. But as far as like going into an interview, I always like to put a couple like samples of my work that I've done, just like hard copies of like brochures or flyers or, you know, something I've already created. And I don't think it's overkill to have different versions of your portfolio. So it's better to just be prepared as much as possible.
It's my turn, right? I didn't want to interrupt anyone. I agree with Anna. I use Behance, but when I was searching for jobs, I've used Behance. It's really easy. It's connected with the Adobe suite, so it makes it really, really simple. If you're doing like print design, I agree with Anna bringing in something physical so that you understand paperweight, you understand the way things fold. It really depends on what you're going into, right? So if you're doing print design, totally bring things that you've done, especially for package design and things like that. Behance is great. I think having your own website, they make it real easy for you to build your own kind of portfolio that has your own URL. It's not that expensive. You can find some that are like $20 a year, depending on what you're wanting. But having your own website, shows that initiative. You're branding yourself. You're using, your art to create a brand for yourself, which also can open up to, freelance work and things like that. So those are my two suggestions: is either creating your own or having, Behance is fine. Also, thank goodness QR codes are coming back, makes it super easy. So even popping that QR code on your resume, making sure that link works, super easy. If you're in the Adobe suites, InDesign actually makes QR codes for you. Go and look that up if you use that. But yeah, totally show your work. You're all artists. This is what it is, right? It's your art, your personality, what you can do. So totally show that off. Don't make them ask for it. Give it to them.
Tim, and then we'll go with Jennifer.
Yeah, we're a visual medium, so anything you can do to get your face out there, and even just the simplest one, Facebook. I mean, if you're in the television program at UNT and you're doing reports, you're doing stories, post one on a Facebook page. Our news director looks at that all the time. We've had 5 UNT grads, I would say, in the last 5 years here at the station in Amarillo. The latest reporter that came from there, Nigel McDonald, and now she's in Missouri. Found her on Facebook. Lots of good stories on there. And also, speaking of which, I'll be very brief. Don't be dumb on Facebook. That'll kill your interview quicker than anything.
I just wanted to echo, since there was a lot of talk about the visual artists that representing music as well. I would second the motion regarding website. Again, so many good tools, and now there are specific, web hosting companies. I think maybe music is a little bit later to the game than art, but I use, a website that has beautiful built-in tools for, and having a store, that kind of thing, linking to all the social media avenues. But again, taking yourself seriously and investing both time and a little bit of money. It doesn't have to be a lot. I don't know if I can mention the name of a site or not, but a company. But I think there are several out there. Do the research. Take the time to represent yourself on a website and put forward some good quality recordings. Again, gosh, now technology is so great that you can make recordings at home. You don't necessarily have to pay thousands of dollars to make a full length thing to represent yourself musically and put something out there of your very best, work. And obviously that depends for musicians. There are so many different avenues you could be going for, but I think having that representation of what you sound like and your best is really key. And having that on a website shows that you're taking yourself seriously, which I think is very, very important.
I'm going to try to get through 2 more very different questions. So for this piece, so what does networking look like in the art arena, knowing that it maybe is not exactly cookie cutter version of other industries? There's different personalities, different spaces to get into. Where does somebody decide to go, I'm going to network today? And they walk out of their front door or log into a computer. Where do they go? What does that look like? to start figuring out what culture even feels like. And then I have a follow-up question to that, but I'll leave it there for now. So what does networking look like? Taylor, can you start?
You've already started networking because you've been in school with people who are going to be in your field, and you are going to bump into them over time. No matter where you move, no matter where you go, you have already started networking. And that's just the reality of it. In addition to that, networking is genuinely being kind and professional with everyone you meet. That is the biggest source of networking I've found. I've been hired because most of my jobs I've been hired because I knew someone who knew the position was open and they thought I would be a good fit, and I'm professional and kind. So every bit of networking, it hasn't been for me because I'm an introvert. I'm not going to go to the social things. That's just not who I am. But it's just being kind, again, asking really good questions of people if they say something that's interesting about their job, and being engaged in the things that you love. That's the best type of networking you can do. Going to the concerts, going to see other people's work is networking, but it's like a more fun form of networking that will potentially lead to careers down the line.
Thanks for starting us off. So Nicole, Mindy, and Anna.
Unmute first. I have to say, Taylor, everything that she said, I agree with 100,000%. But one thing I want to add to that is, since I've been here at the station, I cannot tell you how often the assistant news director and our creative services VP have been contacted by people. So it's kind of like an out of the box kind of networking. These are people that are soon to be graduating from college, or it might be someone who's in a smaller market but wants to get to KDFW and Market 5 and #1 station. I cannot tell you how often people reach out to them. They get their advice on what they can do to get to that next step. And then we've hired, since I've been here 5.5 years, 3 people like that kept in touch with the people that are experts in the field, so to speak, and took the advice of those individuals. And they kept in touch, called, hey, you have opening, I applied, person's interviewed, then they're hired and given a chance. So I think that's also in addition to what Taylor was saying.
Thanks. Over to Mindy, then Anna, and then Will.
1,000,000% backing that up, that your networking is every single day. People you went to high school with, your teachers in high school, their kids, your Uber driver, not kidding. Everybody you meet could be a connection to something later. Not saying that you're using these people, but that's what networking is, right? We literally are trying to make these connections, have these artistic projects done together. Like, let's all help each other. Every single person you interact with could potentially help your network. Every single one of them. So being a decent, polite, nice human being goes a long way. Having a personality, standing out a little bit goes a long way depending on what you're wanting to go into. So yes, just being nice to people. You'd be amazed. People that you're even working with in fast food. Like, I'm serious. Every single human being you interact with could potentially be your most important networking person. Just be nice. Be polite, and all of that great stuff. Always having, business cards, if they have the digital business cards on your phone, things like that. I'm telling you, the more people you meet, the better off you're going to be, and the more connections you're going to make.
Anna, and then Will, and then Kirsten.
You're muted.
Anna's muted. I know, it happened to me too. I feel you.
I found some really good results with networking on social media, especially for artists and illustrators and designers. Like, following artists will also get you some like inspiration, and then give you some ideas, and really like help you if you're having like a creative block. But I found it's like really helpful to, like, if you see somebody whose art that you like, you can just like drop in a comment, be like, oh, I really like your art and stuff. Not only does it like make like their day, but then sometimes like come back on like your page and like look at your stuff too. So all this art is just like circulating around, and I mean, it helps to like build a community. But social media will also help with artists connect to each other and like make collaboration designs and stuff. So that's, it's a really great way to help people connect.
Thanks, Anna. Will.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of echo that. I think for the journalist writer side of things is a great way to basically do the same thing that Anna was talking about. You see someone that writes something and tweets about it that you follow, like quote tweet it and tag them and say, this is a great piece, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe they follow you and now you can send a message to them if you hear about an opening at their publication or whatever. I've done that several times I know you're not probably in charge of hiring this person, but I'm interested in this job. Can you tell me about it? And I've always gotten really good responses. People are, generally polite. Again, if, like Mindy was saying, then they will probably respond in kind. For the journalist world, I feel like Twitter is a good spot to connect and to shout other people out and get them to shout you out and kind of make those connections.
Y'all all have really, really great advice from the whole arena of this industry. So, Kirsten, what's the last piece you can add for us on that?
So I would echo real life as being a great place to network. You just never know who you're running into or who you're talking to. So I was on an airplane one day and a guy comes on with a Frentour and I was like, so I see you have a Frentour in there. And we started a conversation because I'm a Frentour player too. And he was the horn player for the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra and the Canadian Brass. And he's like, would you write me a piece? And I ended up writing him a horn concerto. Same thing happened when someone was standing in line behind me while I was making copies at FedEx office. And I ended up writing him 2 violin pieces that he's played all over the world. You don't know who you're standing next to or sitting next to in an airplane. So just always be nice and always be excited about your work and passionate about it and excited to share about those things. Going to receptions at art openings, after concerts and meeting people, collecting business cards, and make contact with those people right away. Like send them an email, connect with them on Facebook, because you might find their business card 6 months later and go, who was that? But if you connect with them right away and then you stay in touch, you're going to remember them and they're going to remember you and that sort of thing.
So I'm hearing it's not called an elevator pitch for nothing, right? It's the most random place you can run into somebody. So maybe it's called the coffee line pitch, the elevator pitch, the gas station pitch. Be ready to talk about yourself and make a connection. And I have one last quick question. And it's kind of 2-part. What's a good place that students should be looking for job postings? Do they go directly to companies and organizations to look at their websites, or are you all posting on other platforms? And I know we're crossing our fingers for COVID to just be over, but there are still some students perhaps that are in a high risk category that are looking for remote positions. So where can they look for jobs, and how do they see if they are in need of a remote type of a job? Is it posted there as well? Nicole, let's start with you.
As far as postings, I always tell people to either go to our television website, KDFW's site, or Fox Careers, but the aggregate sites pull too. They might not be as updated as our own sites, but they can go to any of those places, as well as industry specific types of websites. All those are helpful. As far as COVID and what's going on, I'm not sure, Tim, not to put you on the spot, but I'm not sure what you guys are also doing, but we're trying to make sure and maintain safety of all of our employees. So the majority of our employees are not in our station. And we have hired people since, during COVID, and those individuals are onboarded quickly on their first day. And then they are, we use something called AWS, and they are brought up to speed and they work remotely. So we are being sensitive to the fact that we have employees that are in the station and we want to maintain everybody's health as well as the ones that are not here. But a lot of our positions are actually remote. Producers and our creative services group, just a lot of the employees are not in, and so I don't want students to feel as if the season that the world is in is going to be detrimental to their search. Even our interns, we still do internships. We do them remotely. So just keep that in mind.
Great. And Taylor, I'll let you close us out and invite all the other panelists. If you have a suggestion for a job listing site, I'll invite you to put it in the chat so our attendees can read it there. But Taylor, what do you got for us?
I want to speak mostly to the high risk question, but I do want to quickly say just making sure that you are present on social media. I actually got my current position because I was on LinkedIn, and I am not active on LinkedIn. I'm not on it every day by any stretch. I'm on it maybe once a month. But by just keeping it fresh and keeping it up to date with current projects that I'm doing, I was able to be found by a recruiter. So being present and just continuing to do great work is one of the best ways to be found. Aside from, I'm a huge advocate for reaching out or finding the organizations you want to work for specifically, and then following them to make sure that you aren't missing any job opportunities with those organizations. As far as being high risk, I would urge you to be careful about searching specifically for remote positions. I would also, because my current position isn't technically remote and didn't have remote anywhere in the title. However, I have been working remotely since I started within this role because I was able to clearly articulate my boundaries. I was open and completely honest about my needs and expectations with starting with the symphony, and they were highly receptive to it, and have been, like Nicole was saying, implementing incredible safety protocol. So be open to positions and ask those questions in an interview if you get to that point. Don't limit yourself on the front end. Make sure that you know what your expectations, your boundaries are, and what your comfort level is with different health and safety protocol, and then address those in that question portion. That's a great question.
Advice. Thanks for closing us out, Taylor. And Dan, I will give it back to you.
Great. Thank you, Hope. And thank you to all the panelists for a great, engaging, and informative panel. Really great answers and great advice to our students. We have one last poll with a question. And what we want to find out is, how do you get your career information, students? So the poll should be coming up. There it is. Click one of those, I believe, or no, you can click as many as you want. How do you find your career information? Job platforms, not surprising, LinkedIn and social media. So good, kind of right where the sweet spot was for the panelists. All right, now I want to make a few important announcements. And the first one is, we've talked about it, the president talked about it. We've created a website, gethired.unt.edu. It's been developed so that we can put all the resources that UNT has to offer in one place for you to help you find a job quickly. So get to the gethired.unt.edu website and look on there. On there, you'll also find a resume review, an opportunity to have your resume reviewed. It's under the showcase portion of the website. When you drop your resume there, an employer like one of the ones today, or a faculty member or staff member, also like one of the ones today, will review it and offer suggestions on how you can improve your resume. So make sure you're dropping that resume and getting that advice so you don't make any mistakes and yours rises to the top of the pile. Finally, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Career Center website, careercenter.unt.edu, for additional career resources and upcoming events. We have a number of things, even though there's only a month to go till graduation. We have a lot going on still in the Career Center to help you find those jobs, as well as going on to Handshake, where there are over 2,000 job postings that you can apply to right now. So get on Handshake and start applying. You can't get a job if you don't apply. And then one last item that I'd like to talk about is, we would like your feedback on today's program. So please fill out the survey to give us your thoughts on today's program. I would like to thank all of our wonderful panelists and Dr. Garcia again for such an informative discussion. Also, thanks to all of you students that attended today's program. It shows that your head's in the right place and you're going to land that job very soon. We hope that everything has been helpful to you today. And if we can be of help to you in your job search, please reach out to the Career Center. Best of luck to each of you the remainder of the semester. Thank you and have a great day.